Hi everybody, we are Mike and Brenda Baker, and today we're going to talk about 28 years of remarriage wisdom, top tips for success.
So obviously we're outside and over here you can see our chicken tractor and probably a couple chickens moving around there. You're going to hear chickens, you're going to hear some noises, and you're going to hear some dogs, maybe, hopefully not.
Hopefully.
But we wanted to be outside where it was a little more comfortable so we could seem like we're having a little more conversational discussion with you. But we're going to go over
fireside chat.
Fireside chat, yeah. So without the fire. So what we want to do is go over some very important things. 3 very important things with obviously some sub things in there to talk about that have gotten us through 28 years. 28 years later, as of today. Yeah, we were married September 11th, 1995. So as of today, we are still best friends. Okay? There's nobody else I would rather be around, nobody else I'd rather see during the day. And no, I never feel like I need time away. All right, which says a lot. Now, has it always been that way? Actually, yes, it has. I spent 3 years away, if you've seen the other videos, for deployments. That's not counting countless Army schools. And I was only a part-time soldier, but I was constantly gone. So that whole part-time soldier bit is a little more, not full-time, but definitely not necessarily part-time either. But the whole point here is we made choices. And that's what we're going to talk about first.
Right. And so, like he already said, we just really wanted to do a special session with you guys to talk about the different long-lasting love things that we've done in order to keep our marriage together. You know, blended family, as you already know, is super, super challenging. It has challenges that you never expect when you get married. So when your friends and family say, well, you knew what you were signing up for before you got married. No, you didn't. You had no clue, or you may not have done it. Okay. So just understand that people don't know what they're saying when they say that. They have no clue how many ups and downs and twists and turns that your marriage has that regular marriages, first-time marriages don't.
Yeah. Now, it's true, you didn't know what you were getting into, but there were a lot of things you did know you were getting into.
Yeah.
Blended families are not easy. You knew that. You heard it, but thought to yourself, I can do this. How bad could it be? Okay. You thought, well, I don't have all the marriage wisdom yet, but I don't need it right now, right? Love and commitment, they'll get me through, which love and commitment will get you through when properly applied.
Yeah.
Okay. But if not properly applied, then it's not really love and commitment. It's something else.
Right. And so that really leads us into our first point, which is choices.
Choices. This is one of my hot buttons.
Oof.
Did you want to say something first?
Nope. Okay. Go ahead.
Choices. So let's talk about choices. We've gotten, well, if you've watched the videos, you know we get a lot of negative comments.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have recently, I have accounts on TikTok. I have accounts on YouTube. I have my own, The Sedated Man on YouTube. I have other accounts as well. And the one thing I've noticed amongst a lot of people is now men are telling men, especially because that's the side I deal with, is the husbands and the men, that blended families aren't worth it. So marriages, the divorce rate is 50% right now. It goes to 60% for second marriages. It goes to 70+ for marriages after that. All right. Now, we've always been transparent. This is Brenda's second marriage. This is my third. We both beat the stats, totally beat the stats. Choices is why we beat the stats. But let me tell you something, and you've heard me say this before, choices are neutral. Choices don't care which way you go. Okay? A choice is just one way or the other that has no information yet. A choice becomes something else when you start to give it information. And 9 times out of 10, when you start giving it information, you've already made a choice. You've already decided which way you're pushing that thing. All right? Whether you're pulling it down the hill or whether you're pushing it up the hill, your first piece of info that you give that choice will typically start that direction. So what I have noticed, all of that, what I have noticed is men and women both don't want to make the hard choices. Now, What do regular families and blended families have in common? They're families. There are some things that are the same and some things that are very different. When you chose to date somebody who had kids, or if you have kids and you chose to date somebody else who has kids or doesn't have kids, you made a choice. You chose to spend some time with that person. Now, when you decide to get married, now when you're just a regular marriage, none of that blended family stuff factors in. That's where it's different. When you're talking blended family, you have a choice. A lot of people don't understand why roles are a big deal. Now, this isn't some misogynistic talk, all right? We used to, by the way, for those of you who are older, misogynistic basically means chauvinistic.
Yeah.
You know, anyway. So it's not some misogynistic thing. People understand roles. We live our entire society by roles, okay? When you stepped in as the female and said, I'm going to take these kids that are not mine as my own. Now, some of you may be saying, I never said that. When you married your spouse, you did. If they had kids, you are saying, I am going to fulfill that role within my home. Not saying you're the real mom or the real dad. You're saying, I will be the dad role, you will be the mom role, or I will be the mom role, you'll be the dad role. Okay, now a lot of people want to automatically go, look, those are his kids or her kids. I don't have anything to do with them. Wrong. You are the male or the female figure in the house, and you represent the mom or the dad there in your house, not your ex's house, your house. If you choose to bow out of that, don't even bother with the marriage. So let me be very blunt. If you choose not to accept those kids as your own, marriage is over before it even starts.
Yeah.
If you choose to keep your kids from the spouse because the ex is just too difficult and you think it will save your marriage is done. Okay? That's across the board. That's the experience that we have had with couples so far. When the kids, when the spouse allows all of that nonsense to get in the way and they don't run proper roles in the house, marriage is done. Now, let me give you an example of roles, and then I'll let you jump in.
Okay.
Sorry. Let me give you an example of what I mean by roles and how you don't have a problem with them, even though you might say that, well, Mike, we don't need roles in our house.
Yeah.
Yes, you do need roles. Moms are more emotional and comforting. Dads are more focused and not legalistic, but more pointed. More, this is what needs to be done. Okay? If you go to a restaurant and you've got a problem with your bill, who do you talk to? Well, you start with the waiter or the waitress, and then you move up to the manager, right? When you don't get the answer you want. Why? Because you know that's the role that's going to give you answers. When you need a spoon because you don't have a spoon on your table, you get a hold of that waiter or waitress. Why? Because you know that's the role that's going to bring that. When you're in a grocery store and you're not happy with a checker, once again, you go to the manager. Why? Because that role is where you're going to get something done. Okay, if you have a question and you're trying to go down the aisle and find a price on something, you'll ask the first person stocking a shelf. Why? Because you know that person is in a role that can answer your question. You have no problem with roles. You just don't want to attach one to yourself.
I forgot what I was going to say, so go ahead. I'll remember in a second here.
So, choices. Okay, now choices is a huge one. I'm a big believer in not stomping out little fires. So there's all these things. We've got, long-lasting love, and we've got honesty, and we've got, a lot of it ends up being more appearance than actual doing.
Yeah.
Okay, because at some point we start to decide, well, I don't want to look like I'm the one that quit.
Yeah.
So we position ourselves to give the appearance that we're making good choices when in fact we're not really making those choices. So hopefully I haven't lost you. Okay, there's a lot there, but listen, let me break it down to you. The single, and this is my opinion, I can't speak for both of us. In my opinion, our single biggest success was no matter, and we were talking about this today, was no matter what, no matter how much we agreed or disagreed, no matter how much we were fighting or not fighting, no matter what it was, at some point, we always choose each other.
Yeah.
And she knows that no matter how mad I am at her, I am not leaving. I will eventually find a way to choose her. And I'm not talking about just rolling over. I'm talking about choosing her in a manner that I am not compromising myself. There have been many fights, big fights that we've had where I have had to say, I don't agree with you and I'm not going to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to find center where we can find center and move forward. And we've done that. There are still things from years ago that we don't agree on, but
Yeah.
we figured out how to move past that because it wasn't worth our relationship. This is what for better or worse means. You guys get into a position of worse and then suddenly you start looking for the door. Why? Because that's what you did in the last relationship, or that's what your spouse did in the last relationship. Good.
Well, and really it comes down to whether or not you're going to be a coward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the last couple of weeks here, we've had a lot of conversations with different people who have contacted us. And I would say that generally speaking, if you're one of those couples, please, I'm not talking about you specifically, just
No.
hear what I'm saying. A lot of the issues that have come up are people who are wanting to be cowards and they're just wanting to not do the thing. Now, there have been some that it's been an honest thing, not speaking about those. There's been others though that there's just a whole lot of cowardice. And so if you're going to commit to being in a blended family, remarriage, whatever you want to call it, you've got to put your money where your mouth is, because your spouse, you know, especially in the first few years, but even after 20 years, and we've been 28, there's still things that Mike needs to tell me that on a regular basis that I need to hear those things. And it's because of past and just different things,
Are you
right?
talking encouragement?
Well, encouragement or different things that I need you to just be there for me on and things like that.
Yeah. By the way, I love you is not encouraging words.
No.
That's something that should be said regardless.
Yeah.
So don't think that because you tell your wife or your husband, I love you every day, that you're getting your encouraging word quotient out there. You're not.
Yeah.
Okay, you're stating a fact they need to hear regularly, every day. And that's good. That's a good habit, but doesn't fall under encouraging words.
Right.
But I think this brings us to number 2.
Yeah.
Loyalty and security.
Right.
So, did you have something?
Go ahead.
Okay, so loyalty is typically what men are going to look at things as. Security is what women are going to look at things as. Now, the two are actually one and the same. Kissing cousins, to be, you know, if you want to look at it that way. Security for a woman atypically involves bills are paid, houses taken care of, you know, she feels that she is secure in her spot. Whereas for a man, security is loyalty. He knows that when he gets home, she's there for him. And I don't mean there physically every time. He knows that she has his back regardless, that he can trust her regardless, that he can trust her with the kids, that he can trust her to have his back, that he can trust her to take care of things that he can't get to because if she said she would do something, he knows it's going to get done.
Yeah.
Okay, and sure, sometimes things, you know, happen and things get in the way. I'm not talking about those items. I'm talking about generally speaking. But loyalty and security is huge, and that comes from choices.
Yeah, and I would say that for men, in our experience, a lot of what the loyalty kind of hinges on is whether or not she's going to have his back when he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be physically, she's going to stick up for him, she's going to do what she knows is best, or what they've talked about with the ex or exes that are involved, the kids that are involved. And security, it has a lot to do with money and how the woman feels the relationship is going. But it also, security is definitely, are you building something? Are you constantly putting into your relationship? And Mike does that extremely well. Even in our bad times, we've still done date night. We've still, you know, had heart-to-heart conversations. Sometimes we've had to set aside the issue for a while and not touch it except for here and there.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's been how we've had to deal with that, because we've had some big things that have happened, and then we've really had to come back to center, remember why we were together, those sorts of things, in order to get through it.
Because when we said for better or worse, we meant it.
Yeah.
You know?
And we've had a lot of better, and we've had a lot of worse.
And really, I think that brings us to number 3.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard Mel Gibson refer to it. I've heard it referred to a lot of different ways. I heard Mel Gibson refer to it as hugging the cactus. So, going back to what I said about we don't want to look like we're the ones who quit.
Yeah.
The important thing to remember is that appearances mean nothing. Okay? When, you're like, this sucks, my spouse this, my spouse that, they do this, they do that, the kids this, the kids that. When you said for better or worse, you are only picturing in your head the better.
Yeah.
And that love and commitment would bring you through, okay? This is where love and commitment get real, where the rubber meets the road, all right? Love and commitment are dirty, grimy things that take years of sweat equity within your relationship, okay? But they're worth it. They're 100% worth it. They are the things that build security and loyalty. They are the foundations of your marriage, all right? So when you say for better or worse, granted, you're not thinking about what worse looks like. You're just thinking, oh, how bad could it get? Mm-hmm. You know exactly how bad it could get. You're looking at it. You're living it, okay? So when things get tough, now I'm not endorsing, once again, let me put out there, we're not endorsing abuse.
No,
okay,
never.
That's a whole different deal. We're talking about two people who have a problem. Now, if the husband isn't going to step up and he's not going to protect his wife and he's not taking his role in the house as he should, marriage is going to fall apart. Because one person can't fix the whole marriage, okay? If the wife is refusing to let the husband step in and aid because they're her kids,
yep,
marriage is over. Marriage is over. Or it's going to be one long, miserable marriage, whether that guy ends up in the ground, from a heart attack at some point. So, hugging the cactus means that you literally have to hug this problem so hard that it hurts and move through it.
Together.
Together. Once again, choices. You have to choose your spouse. The only way this works is you choose every second of every day. I'm going to have your back regardless of what our problem is. We are going to hug the cactus and move through this together. Find somebody. How do you do that? You can find somebody like us. Everybody, believe it or not, we're not anomalies, all right? There are other people in the world like us, and you probably know them. Find a couple that appears at least to have a great marriage. Ask them what they're doing. What are you doing? We need help. If you go to church, talk to your elders. Talk to, if there's counselors involved. I'm not a huge counselor guy, but not every counselor, I think, is a bad person. I think a lot of them mean well. Be careful with counseling, but then to each his own. Do what you think you need to do. But don't just think I'm going to lump it out. Okay? Exes can be brutal. So can spouses.
Yes.
Okay? Let's not forget that when you're telling a person your story about what's going on in your life currently and your issues, they're only getting one side of the story. To be fair, there are two sides. And I'm not saying, I'll be the first to admit, I don't like my ex. Okay? We don't get along. We're very caustic, and I won't be in the same room with her because things don't go well. But you are only getting one side of the story on that. You're only hearing mine, and I will absolutely tell you that I'm not suggesting you go find her. I'm absolutely telling you that if you really want the whole story, you talk to her too. So that's to be fair.
Yeah, and part of hugging that cactus is embracing the suck. It's embracing all the things about the relationship and your new family that suck. Yeah. Sometimes that's the stepkids. Sometimes it's how your spouse deals with their kids. Sometimes, it's childhood trauma that has never been resolved that now you're like, well, what do we do? How do we do that? Yeah. It doesn't matter what it is. It's time to give it a hug if you want to stay married and figure out how to deal with it in a positive way. Now, we do coaching, but we only work with a select few because honestly, in our experience, not everyone wants to put the time and effort into their marriage to make it successful.
A lot of tire kickers.
Yeah. And so we're very careful about who we take on as clients because most people are not worth our time. Am I talking to you? Do you need to have an attitude shift and be that person that could work with us? I don't know. I'm just asking you, are you doing the things that we've said all along in all of our videos? Or are you coming to this video hoping for that one thing that can help you to have the best marriage possible? Turn around and look in the mirror. It's all on you and you, and you, and you, whoever you are. We're talking to everyone, not just you, not just your spouse, both of you. Okay?
Here's a bonus thing for you, but before I give you the bonus, let me put out there. We are not counselors. We are not psychiatrists. We are not psychotherapists. We have no degrees, okay? What we are is successful at 28 years of marriage, all right? So just because we don't have a license doesn't mean that we don't know what we're talking about here. We do, all right? Do I have something for everything? No. But,
And I'd like to add that we have helped a lot of people.
yeah.
A lot of people have been successful with our tips. So there's proof.
So your bonus. Here's your bonus. One of the biggest choices we made was when our kids were young. Now, this can work for older kids too. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
I think so.
What?
That divorce was never an option.
Nope, that's not what it is.
Really?
Although that was something we agreed on. We agreed
got
on
it
that.
wrong.
We agreed on that before we got married. Family identity. Part of the problem in households is that it's your family, my family,
Yeah.
or your family and I have no kids, or their family and you have no kids. So we see, I told you there's dogs in the background. We decided early on, we took a course and found that family identity was a huge thing. So what we did was we actively created family identity within our house. Why? Because it promotes the family as a unit, not this separation over here and this separation over here. It's cohesive. Okay, so my last name's Baker. Being a baker when I was a kid was not a good thing. There wasn't a baker that was known in the area that was a good person. So when we got married, I told the boys, you know what? We're done with that. Being a baker is going to be a good thing from here on out. And you're going to be proud to be bakers, and you're going to be excited to be bakers. And we, blended or not, we are the bakers.
Yeah.
That is what is the same between regular families and blended families, is you're still families. Build your own family identity based on your household. Teach your kids what choosing each other looks like.
Well, and really, you're the example. However you and your spouse choose to act with each other, your kids are watching, okay? If you have kids in the house, but even if you don't, because our kids are all adults, and they still will say, well, you said this and you said that. They're still watching.
Yeah.
You are telling your kids through your actions and through what you expect of one another and what you put up with one another, what is okay in marriage. So if you're accepting abuse in your marriage, whether it be physical, spiritual, whatever, you are telling, especially your girls, that abuse is part of love. That's what love looks like. For your boys, if same thing. If you are accepting neglect, abuse, whatever, you're telling your boys that that is how they as boys should act when they're in a loving relationship, quote unquote. So you have to be extremely careful with how you choose to do things and what choices you make, because do you want your kids to live your life? Hopefully you're coming here for advice, but you've got a pretty good marriage. You're just wanting to make it better.
Yeah.
Okay. And if that's the case, then kudos to you, because it's rough. It's a full-time job in itself, just staying married in a remarriage.
Yeah. But as you can see, it's getting dark.
Yes, it is. So with that, we thank you so much for being here on this special edition. We really hope that we have imparted some of the things that have helped us to stay, in a loving and committed relationship. And we've given you really some marriage wisdom in this session. We try to do that every time, but this is just special. It is our 28th wedding anniversary today, September 11th. And so we just wanted to come to you and just say, hey, these are the things that we have boiled down, generally speaking, and all of that. So with that, we are going to say goodnight, and we hope you're doing well. Please leave a comment below if you're loving these videos, if you have any questions. And yeah, so with that, we'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.